Hi. Okay, let's check if you can hear me. Probably you can hear me. Maybe, yes, no. Is there anyone live watching this? Okay, so, yes. Welcome to the next question and answer session. This time the question and answer session for August. Okay, thank you. Yes, you're here. That's good. I decided to move to a new place so you can see my background. This is where I work, basically. Like here. So this is my desk. This is where I do my watercolor work, and behind me you can see the books I use for my reference, and also you can see the garden outside the window and my watercolors. And also the neighbor is doing, okay, the sound is low, okay, I will make it bigger. And also the guy next door is doing like work. So I hope you will not mind some grass cutting and stuff like this. Okay, so first I would like to show you the things I'm doing right now. Because of your generous support, you are more than 100 right now, so I'm really happy because of that. There's like 100 people, more than 100 people supporting me right now on Patreon, and I'm really happy I can do my stuff. And actually the pledges that you gave are more than enough to how do you say, to support my art things. So the paper and going to Tokyo from time to time and the paints and all this stuff. And because of that I can just follow and continue my work. So the first thing I'm doing right now is the comic Yuragi, and I have here page number 30, which is already done. And it looks like this. Showing this in the camera is difficult. And this is drawn on about A4, I think it's B4 paper, but it's smaller than this paper, so I can scan it on my scanner. And actually this will be scanned, this was scanned once before it was colored, and then it will be scanned again, like, because it's colored, and then it will be edited in Photoshop, and I will put the text here because this will be in English and Polish and probably Japanese. I will do 3 versions and put them on Gumroad. But those of you who support me on Patreon will have this for free, the PDFs, and it will also contain some additional content, not only the comic. But the comic itself will be published on the internet so everyone can see it, but it will be published 1 page a week. So it will take about probably a year, 50 weeks, so to see everything. And yes. And the next project I'm doing right now is the book I started on my Tokyo Storefronts book at last. So I have here the first picture of the Tokyo Storefronts book. This is a new shop that was not in the first series, and we went with Kana to have location hunting in Tokyo last week to see first 10 shops, and I will be making a video of this as we go around Tokyo and check out the shops. And this is the first time I actually did it right, so I got the permissions from the owners of the shops to film and to feature their shops in the book. So this is like how do you call it? I do it the proper way. For the first series, I just went, I did the illustrations as my hobby. なんかすげえ聞こえるこれ。
そこまでじゃない。
OK。
チャットってどこで見るの？
ね。わかんない。これは僕がログインしてるので。わかんない。ごめん。Okay, so sorry for this interruption. So this is the first store, and I was also able to make photos inside of the store. So actually I have the possibility to draw the insides of the stores also. So not every store will be done like this, but some stores will be also drawn inside. And I'm actually right now negotiating with the publisher to make the book available in English and in Japanese. So like one book and it has English and Japanese text. This is kind of hard, but probably we shall do it, and you'll be able to buy this on Amazon. We will be putting a link so you can pre-order the book on Amazon soon with a temporary cover. So you'll be able to pre-order the book on Amazon. Yeah, and I will post the link. When it's ready. And also I got this. I showed you before these awesome pens, the white ones, the Kohinoor ones, from my fan and fellow artist from America, from the United States, and I'm using them in the new book for the new illustrations for the book, and so the lines are better and more visible and is more awesome, and I can do more details. So these are the main two things I'm working on right now, and because of your support I can buy all this stuff, and I can buy my paper and my paints and everything. And okay, so I will answer the questions you asked me, and in order. Okay, so the first questions I got on Patreon. 見えてるよ. Okay, okay, so first I will answer here. Are those Ghibli books on your shelf? Yes, I have not everything, but a lot. So here I have Ghibli albums, and here I have some storyboard books from Studio Ghibli, and I use them a lot. I have some old ones, like these old Laputa ones that are almost falling apart, and the cover, I lost the cover somewhere. But I also like these, so the Miyazaki's mangas, and I really recommend buying them if you like his watercolor works. Even if you cannot read Japanese, they are awesome to look at, and I have a lot of inspiration from those mangas to do my stuff. The only thing that it's a shame that he didn't know how to use Photoshop or didn't have any stuff that fixed it for him, because his writing is terrible and his lines sometimes are invisible because they are done in pencil and then painted over in watercolors. So it would be nice if he has some stuff, a producer that can scan it for him and edit it in Photoshop after he finishes with it. So I would like to see a new album of his comics, but yeah, this are really great. And I have also other books from other animations. Of course, I have the albums from the animations I took part in. I have Makoto Shinkai's works. I have also other things that I kind of wanted. For example, the new Sekai no Katasumi, Kono Sekai no Katasumi ni, which is also an awesome movie. And this book is great reference for old buildings and all kinds of historical stuff also. And I really like the drawing style in this. Also the Oga Kazuo-san books, which are beautiful background books with a little bit of pencil sketches that are for me like one of the best, like simple but beautiful pencil sketches that I know actually. And I recommend those books also. I have a lot of books. I use them for reference and for inspiration, but I don't use them like directly. This is just an inspiration for me, and sometimes like, how do you draw like those hands, or how do you draw those faces, or something like that. I use those books as reference, but I don't use directly. I don't try to mimic the style of Studio Ghibli because the style was actually like a derivative of the traditional Japanese animation. So Japanese animation style even before Hayao Miyazaki joined the club, and it's still like cultivated by few anime studios. So it's not only Ghibli style that does this kind of animation, but of course I think the stuff done by Hayao Miyazaki are the best. So yes, I have those books, and I have books of Studio Ghibli a lot here. Not everything, I still miss Totoro and stuff like this, but yeah. Okay, I got a question about the papers I use. I'll just find this one. You gave me this question here. Yeah, it was from Anna Maravik, if I read it properly, and it was about the papers I use. So I noticed that two latest commissions you used different paper, like the Council Mullen-Leroy paper and the White Watson watercolor paper. Why do you use different papers for different works? I use most of the times I use this. Not so big, not always so big, but yeah, this brand. Which is actually English paper, the Saunders Waterford White, and it's actually only bound in Japan by Holbein. And you can buy it in different forms, in different bindings in Europe also. And this is good paper for its price. For example, this huge block, and it's 53 by 45 centimeters, and it has, I think, 12 sheets, so it's quite huge. I will probably cut those sheets in half and use it for the book. This is what I use for the story illustrations I showed you. And this paper is really great because this is cold pressed paper, so it has really nice texture, and it's really tough. It's really hard to damage with anything. And usually I use this size, which is a little bit smaller and more compact. And for the store's illustrations, I cut this paper in half and use it for this. So usually I use this one, but some commissions, like the cover I did, is kind of long and thin. So if I use a paper like this, I will have to cut the top and the bottom, or just leave it blank. But if I use the Canson one, you can see that it's more like long and panoramic. If you compare those two, this. So with this paper, I did not waste so much paper, because I just could paint more or less all over this one. So this is longer also a little bit. And this is also cold press 300 grams paper, and this is the Canson Moulin de Roy. And there's no actually how do you call it, like a reason why I use this one or why I use this one. More or less they are kind of the same, so the quality is good. This is 300 grams per square meter, and this is not so big of a difference between those two papers, but the size is kind of different. So for more panoramic work I use this one. I hope he'll quit with his grass cutting soon. Okay, so this is this question. Okay, so Christopher, more of a philosophical query, but how much editing in Photoshop do you think is acceptable for hand-painted art? Would you say the cutoffs? What would you say the cutoff is for you? Okay, so for me, it's like most of the times when I paint on this kind of paper, the sides here, when I scan them, are not 100% white. So when I print it or send it to the printer, you will be able to see where the paper ends. And I don't like it actually, especially in the Society 6 store prints and something like that. You can see actually where the scan ends. So most of the times I make this edge completely white, and it's easy on paintings like this when the edges are kind of straight and you can just select everything really easily. But if you have more complicated paintings, you have to kind of decide where do you cut it and where do you leave the gray of the paper and the texture of the paper. So that's the one step I do. I modify the colors a little bit so they are more vibrant and more close to the original, and also put some filters on parts that I think are too dark or too light, little bit correct them, but this is like minor corrections, mostly so that when I print it the colors are more vibrant and kind of better. And sometimes when I make a big mistake, like oh shit, this painting was okay but this part is completely messed up, I once or twice repainted a part of the picture and pasted it in Photoshop, but the content is kind of still painted with watercolors. So this is only like correction. Personally, I don't like adding too much filters and too much editing to my watercolor paintings. I think that adding just like color correction and making it ready to be printed is okay. But if you want to say that it's okay hand painted, that's kind of the cutoff. If you start painting on it with brushes and just do stuff like add stuff, this is already like mixed media, because it's half digital, half hand painted. Note that it matters actually, because you know, who cares what category this is? If it looks good, it's okay. But especially lately, the analog and digital kind of thing is kind of blurry, because we do so much like matte painting and all kinds of stuff. Also, there are things that you cannot just do with analog. I mean, I cannot paint a huge picture because I don't have so much paper or paint or whatever, so I painted two parts and then put it together, something like that. So it just, you know, if you start painting on a picture with brushes and add stuff and then call it, okay, I painted it with watercolors, that's saying too much, actually, I think. Most of the times I don't use also references like directly. I don't paint over photos. I don't paint and sketch over photos. I look at photos when sketching, but don't paint over them. Nonsense, actually. Painting over photos, I think, or trying to make it look as realistic as possible is kind of different kind of art than I usually do. Okay, so yesterday I uploaded a new tutorial for you to enjoy, and this tutorial covers mixing paint, which is really simple, but I think something that should be covered in tutorials of watercolor paintings. And I got a question from you. From Elizaveta Mikhailova, I think. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Can you tell how you combine colors in your art piece? I have some problems when I start to color my illustrations. Okay, so with difficult pieces like this one, for example, this one is kind of difficult. It has a lot of details, and if you start just painting it all at once, it can be difficult. Sometimes I just make a photo of the lines I did with my tablet or with my phone. It doesn't have to be a scan because it's only a test. And I put it on Photoshop, or I put it here in Procreate, and I do like really rough test of the colors, more or less what I would like to do with the watercolors. Of course, you have to know how the watercolors will behave, because on digital, if you mix like blue with yellow, it will be mixed of blue and yellow. But if you really use the blue and yellow watercolors, you will get like ugly green in between. So you have to know how to use watercolors before you do like the sketching. But this kind of color rough, digital color rough, is really good because you can test some things. Sometimes I have to do those tests because I have to send designs to the publisher for them to see and accept the version. And basically, when you have a sketch like this, it's less stressful to paint it with watercolors, so you can just relax and concentrate on painting with watercolors and using them as best as you can, which is really necessary to do good watercolor painting. Of course, I don't do this sketch always. For most of my, for example, the comic pages I don't do a sketch because, yes, this is kind of, I want to do it as fast as I can, so I don't do the sketching. I just paint it straight here. Of course, the characters are kind of more already designed, and the setting is already decided, so it's easier for me to decide what the colors should look like. The more freedom you have on your painting, the less of a setting you have, the more difficult it becomes. But with a comic like this, I already have decided, for example, behind me here you can see the designs of the character's house and the surroundings and the characters themselves here. So these are decided things, and the more you have decided the things you have in your picture, the easier it becomes to decide the overall colors. Okay, so this house is this color, and the light is from here because it's, I don't know, evening or something, and because it's evening I have to use like warmer colors and like dark shadows, intensive shadows, so this picture will look more or less like this. Of course, if you have no setting and just painting whatever you want, is the hardest thing to do, actually. And when I decide colors, of course, there is the thing that I worked as a background artist for years. so I know more or less how to do backgrounds and color mixes, so they look okay at least. And that's a real help for me when I start to do a new painting, because I already know more or less, okay, this will work and this will not work, so I can avoid most of the mistakes I could make. But I try to kind of make an adventure of every painting I do. For example, recently I have done this cover for the Tokyo Metro Guide magazine, and for this painting I chose kind of a different color scheme and different way of coloring than I usually do, because I wanted this part here to be kind of dark and bluish with shadow, but this part is kind of covered with light and shadows from the trees. So I ventured out a little bit and used this pale green blue as the highlight, which is kind of the opposite thing that I usually do. I usually do cool, um, like blue shadows and warm highlights, but here I did kind of the opposite thing. So I tried to do various things, experiment a little. Um, so there is no like correct answer for this picture. This is just what I did, and I think it looks okay. But I could color it probably completely different, and it will still look interesting. Just the color combinations are important. So if you do like this kind of shadow, then the highlight should be more or less contrasting. There are those simple rules that you can follow, but there is no like, okay, this is the pattern, and if you follow this pattern it will go okay whatever you do. For me, I used a lot of inspiration from the books you see behind me and from art I download from the internet. I see, I watch and download a lot of art from various people and save them to a catalog I have on my Dropbox. So if I need nice colors, a nice color combination that I can use in my picture, I just go to this folder and look for something that I like and I think that will be kind of suitable for this picture I'm planning to do. Of course, the picture that I'm using as reference and the picture I'm planning to do is completely different. But okay, with this shadow, this kind of color, and this kind of highlight, I should be able to pull it off. And on this picture, this color combination works. And so yeah, I will kind of use this on my picture also. Okay, which artists do you admire on the internet? I have a lot of people I follow. If I could find my cell phone, yes. I follow a lot of people. I follow a lot of people on Instagram, or I follow a lot of people on Tumblr, but lately I have been doing a lot of Instagram following, I think. And I try to follow a lot of people because they do a lot of interesting stuff that I don't do at all. For example, this person does like these crazy watercolors that are kind of pixelated pieces of color which are awesome, which is really interesting and kind of a thing that I don't do at all. This guy makes awesome comics that are kind of Japanese but not mainstream and kind of different than most of the things that you do on the internet. I follow a lot of stuff. I follow some artists on YouTube also, but I'm already on my folder 20 of works I downloaded from internet. So there are too many artists for me to mention and to write here. but probably I should make like 10 artists list or something like that for you to follow. I'll do a list like this and post it under this video on Patreon for you to follow them on Instagram or something like that. There are a lot of people, a lot. And sometimes I only find like one picture that I like and just save it. And sometimes I find a new person that I like and they're like all kinds of works that this person did that I like. So I save it, everything. And sometimes I find person that I want to follow, so I follow them on various social media, and this kind of gives me the fuel to work, kind of inspiration also, because I want to be the part of this kind of community also, and share my works with you, which is my main kind of goal with my works. Okay, more questions. I can show you my watercolor set, which is actually currently my main watercolor set. I changed some colors because I got the two new Schmincke watercolors from I don't know, like 2 weeks ago. So this is the standard watercolor Schmincke set, the 48 colors set, but I changed and moved some things around because I found that I don't need some colors that were in this set. For example, the two whites that were in this set, I don't use white watercolor, so I removed them. I removed the gold, I removed the silver, I added some greens. I added the new color that's quinacridone gold hue. I added one new green recently, which is the Perlin green, and it's this kind of really nice dark green. And the gold quinacridone gold hue is this really nice orange transparent watercolor. And I would like to add some more from the new 32 color set that 35 colors that they announced, but for now, yeah, this is more or less what I'll be using from now, I think. But I also have, you can see, a second set which is kind of a mishmash of everything. These are the paints that did not get to the main set, and they are of various makers, and there are some paints here that I like to use, and I don't want to just get rid of them. For example, this kind of light violet paint from Daler and Roni is really nice, but I cannot find anything that Schmincke makes that is kind of close, so I'm still hanging on to this one. But I try not to mix the paints if I do a commission for someone. For example, if I do a commission of a painting that will be displayed somewhere, or just a person will be using it like outside, just putting it somewhere, I try to paint with only one maker, and so I can paint it. Okay, this was painted with Schmincke watercolors on this paper and used like these tools, so you can just be kind of safe putting it, like displaying it. It will not fade or do kind of weird things. Okay, the next question from Kanra. Yes, I don't know if you've addressed it before in previous videos, but what drew you to watercolor specifically as your medium of choice? This is kind of difficult because when I was a kid, I had really cheap watercolors, and this was most of the. If I wanted to paint with color, this was the only thing I had. There were also like cheap poster colors in small jars that you could open and paint with them, but they were terrible. I mean, the watercolors were not really nice either, but you could buy watercolors that you could use at home. So I had my small notes that I painted, like characters or cartoons or like cool castles and cool houses and all kinds of stuff, and I colored it with watercolors. And it kind of continued. I got better little bit. I tried other stuff in between, like markers and color inks and all kinds of stuff. But most of the times I got back to watercolors. I bought a little bit better ones that give better concentrated colors. I came to Japan. When I came to Japan, I wanted to try the Holbein watercolors because Miyazaki uses them. So I bought a set of Holbein watercolors and I used them. And this kind of continued for me for a long time. And it was not like I bought my first set and it's like, oh, I want to use only this one. But it was kind of the medium that stuck with me throughout almost all my art thing. I tried all different kinds of things like acrylics and poster colors and pencils and pastels and all kinds of digital stuff that I still use. But for me, watercolors are kind of easy to use enough so you can control them enough, but they give you this kind of random aspect that you cannot 100% tell what the picture will look like when you finish with it. And also you cannot correct watercolors so much, so when you finish a picture it's finished. So it's not like digital that you can correct and correct and correct and correct and undo, because I would do that all the way. I would just spend like infinite amount of time on correcting my pictures, making them more realistic and putting more details. So with watercolors there's the limit that keeps me from doing this. This is also the problem with like poster colors and acrylic gouache, which you can paint over. So there's no point to stop, and this is a problem. I just like watercolors. This is probably the most short answer, but yeah, the original thing is that we had only watercolors and poster colors when I was a kid. So now probably if I would be a kid in Japan, I would just go to the Sekaido store and there's like a lot of things you can use: Copic markers and color inks and acrylic gouache and oils and all kinds of stuff. But for me, watercolors were the start and I never stopped using them. Okay. Do you use for Valentin Michelet? Sorry. Do you use the artworks you collect as direct reference, or would you rather say that you feed your inspiration? Your bank account, as Jake Parker would say, indirectly. Of course, I feed my creative bank account from the artworks I download, because sometimes you see something that just opens like a part of your brain and it's like, I can do this. I mean, like, I didn't think that I could do it like this, but oh, this is interesting. So you almost instantly want to grab a paint or something and try this, because this looks like a new technique that would really be helpful in your art, which is really, really awesome. But sometimes, especially with characters, I'm at a loss how to paint an eye or how to paint a face or make a character more interesting. So then I just go through my download folder and try to find interesting stuff. And then while looking at it, I try to just do sketches of characters with my style of those characters, and actually the other way around, my characters in those style, or putting some elements of that I like of this character in my characters. So this kind of a fusion process going on. I don't use those illustrations or sketches anywhere. They just stay on my in my sketchbooks. You can see behind me, but this is like the kind of learning process I did from when I was a kid. So I didn't go to any art school. I didn't go to any classes that would tell me how to paint and draw stuff. So I learned from just observing things on the internet and just analyzing the artwork of my favorite artists. And this is the kind of how I reached the style I have right now, but probably it will change with time also. It seems that the thing is on again.
大丈夫
Okay, any more questions? I think we will go for about 20 minutes more, so if you have any questions you would like me to answer, feel free to do so. And I would like to show you more in the meantime of my kind of workspace. This is an electric pencil sharpener, which I really like and use for my pencil. Most of my watercolors have pencil line work, so I use this a lot for sharpening my pencils, and I would recommend anyone who uses this, who uses pencils, to buy a pencil sharpener like this. The other thing I use is the electric pencil eraser, which is also really useful, especially if you use watercolor paper and use pencils on watercolor paper, because they can be hard to erase with just a regular eraser. I use this, which gives this awesome sound. I don't know if you can hear it. And this just rotates and erases a lot of really hard lines of pencils. Especially I use soft pencils sometimes, like 5B or something, which this is really helpful to get rid of the lines. Okay, some questions from Valentin. After watching your last watercolor tutorial video, I had the feeling that paint with only one pigment is better to use than those with 2 or 3 pigments. What do you prefer? Actually, until recently, I haven't really think about that. I just use my Schmincke set because I don't mix watercolors so much. I mix it a little bit to get like nice gradation of colors or just some effects, but I don't mix colors like 2-3 colors or 4 on like daily basis. For me, I have a lot of pre-mixed colors in a set like this, so I just mix colors if I really have to, and I try to keep them as clean as possible. Because of that, I can get more vibrant colors, and the picture is kind of more simple, which is kind of the style I use for most of my illustrations. But of course, the pigments are the less the better. If you want to mix your paints, for example, make a minimalistic set of about 10 colors and then mix everything, including the greens, all the greens, just mix them from blue and yellow, then I would recommend using single pigment paints. They can be more expensive because some of the single pigments are kind of expensive, and that's why you have the for example, Holbein vermilion and vermilion hue, because the vermilion, the pigment is expensive, so the paint is about 3 times more expensive than the imitation one. That's why you have 2 paints. This is the main reason. Because the imitation one is series A, so it's about 300 yen, I think, so about $3. But the vermilion is kind of series F, I think, so it's $9, I think, or even more than that. So it's 3 times more expensive. If you can go with this, I would recommend single pigment colors, and there's actually a set made by Mielo Mission Gold that have only single pigment colors in the set, which I would really like to try, but they won't send it to me because they don't sell it. are not in Japan, so I cannot test it yet. But yeah, if that would be actually a nice experiment to do, like just make a set of single pigment colors, like 10 colors, and then use them to paint all the things by mixing the colors. I paint comics and I paint my illustrations, and I want to paint as fast as I can. That's why I use pre-mixed colors a lot. That's why I have like two 48 colors palettes here, and I use a lot of colors in my work. But yeah, I did some experimentations, for example, with the vermilion, and I can confirm that the colors that are, for example, one pigment paint with one pigment paint, the mix is kind of nice and more bright and has nice kind of texture to it. But if you mix like 3 pigment paint with 2 pigment paint, the color is kind of the same, but the texture and the granulating effect is better on single pigment paints. Okay, I hope that answered your question. If you have more detailed question, I can also answer it also, I think. Okay, for Miguel Hernandez. Will Yuragi be a webcomic or published work? It will be both. I'm planning to do, I have already set up a website, so I will be publishing it weekly, page by page. So everyone can just read it for free. But if you will want to read the whole comic at once and see some additional content, like those paintings that are behind me, and some setting and some location hunting photos and some sketches and concept work and all kinds of stuff, then I will be selling PDF and EPUB files on my Gumroad. And of course, if you are supporters on Patreon, if you are supporters above the $5 thing, that you will be able to download all those PDF files for free to read them and I don't know, upload them to your iPad. I actually recently tested the comic on my iPad. I have an application that's called Sidebooks, which I use to read all PDF files and all kinds of stuff. And I have been testing the comic on iPad. It has no text yet, and some of the pages are not done, but it will look kind of like this while you have it on your iPad or your other tablet. So yeah, it will be like a digital download and webcomic kind of thing. Ultimately, I want to use it as a piece of my portfolio also. That's why I will be making a website where you will be able to just read it like page by page. Okay, next question. Yeah, the finding paints with one pigment can be kind of difficult. Finding the color you want can be really difficult, but there's also the light fastness and all kinds of other parameters that are kind of important. So I wish you luck, because I actually cannot find a kind of pink color that I want from Schminke, and I'm still using a different maker. So yes. Next question from Kanra. I'm trying to get faster at drawing my pieces. I feel like they take me way too long. Do you have any tips for improvements, like daily exercises? Do a comic. This is this is the simple thing that made me draw faster a little bit. Also, I was doing animation, so I was drawing characters, like all kinds of poses, about like this amount of paper in 5 months. So I had to do it fast. But comic, even like a simple one, is really nice as an exercise, not only with doing characters and poses, but also perspectives and nice you have to think about the layout of each panel and layout of the page. So it's a nice exercise about like perspective and nice interesting camera angles and how to make it easy to read. And of course when you finish a page like this, it's really nice because you feel you have done something. And if you finish like 20 pages, you feel like you did even more. So it gives you this kind of satisfaction from your work, which is really important also, and it keeps you working and doing more. So I like to recommend doing even simple like comics, like 4-panel comics, or like sketch comics, or really rough stuff for practicing your art, which is nice. I don't do like this kind of exercises. Sometimes I do my characters to test some stuff, like this kind of poses in really cheap sketchbooks, to test how they look like in this kind of pose or this kind of pose, which is interesting. And I take some inspirations from nice poses of characters I found in my download folder, and okay, this pose is nice, so let's try to draw my character in this pose. So this is also a nice kind of exercise. But yeah, the drawing a really simple comic is really good for your speed and creativity, I think, and it gives you something also you can share on the internet, which is nice. There will be the Inktober also. I don't know if I'll be able to participate this year because I have another project that I'll be starting next year, but I cannot tell you anything about it. But I will have to write kind of rough of a story soon, so I'll be probably working on this. So I don't know if I can participate in the Inktober, but Inktober is also nice for you to practice something like characters or ink drawing, and give you this satisfaction that, oh, I finished the 30 drawings in Inktober. So yeah, go to Jake Parker's website, check the themes that are this year, and participating in Inktober is also awesome. Okay, next question from Valentin. I noticed that Winsor & Newton paints are less vibrant than Schmincke or Holbein. Do you use it? However, if so, when do you use it instead of the two others? I used Winsor & Newton. Actually, one of the first pans set I bought in Japan was from Winsor & Newton, the professional series. And I have to say that some of the paints in this set were crap. For example, I don't know if you saw the tutorial I posted on the second part, and I was comparing like Schmincke and Winsor & Newton, I think Prussian blue, and the Prussian blue was awful. I could not get any color from this, no matter how I scrubbed it with my brush. So actually, I can confirm that some of the paints from Winsor & Newton are not really vibrant and don't get nice colors. But yeah, I hope that they will get better. I didn't have so bad experience with Winsor & Newton. Actually, I like some of the paints that they did, and some of the paints from Schmincke also are kind of thin. For example, in the new colors that they released, there is the kind of brick red paint that is just thin. You cannot get it to get intensive. And for me, the Prussian, answering your question, okay, for me, the Prussian blue was the one that was kind of but the rest was okay. And Kana now has the Winsor & Newton student grade set, which is 12 colors, like a really simple set, and it's okay. And I tested the colors in the last video, as you can see, and most of the colors are really nice and vibrant. Most of them are the hue version, so the cheaper version with more pigments and cheaper pigments, but they work okay. Oh, come on. これダメだよね. Okay, I think the man is really close right now, so I don't know if we can continue this for long, but okay, so next questions. Answering this, I had some problems with Winsor and Newton paints with some of the colors, but most of the times they were okay. And actually the 12 color set was perfect, so I don't have so many problems with this, but I was really surprised with the Prussian blue. I would be really happy if someone could confirm it with a second set, because maybe just my set was really bad. My mic. I don't know what he is cutting there. For the last question and answer session, we had like jet fighters going up, and now we have like guy cutting. I don't know. This is a kind of a curse probably. Okay, the next question from Inez Beatriz. Would you ever consider doing a sketchbook tour? Yes, but I would have to choose everything really good, because most of my sketches are really crap, and there are some just, you know, from the inspirations I have from internet, so I don't use them, I don't show them usually to people. My sketchbooks are not sketchbooks are not really good for showing them, so I would have to choose these sketches that I would like to show you. どう?
その声は聞こえる
Okay. Okay, so it's 1 hour. I think we will quit there, because this guy is getting annoying and loud, and I don't know. If you have any questions, ask now. This is the last chance. He'll probably quit in like 10 minutes or something, but
なんか言った方がいいでももう終わる
多分
どっち
いや、とりあえずいっか。もうちょっと続いて。Yes, I would like someone to confirm that the Winsor & Newton Prussian blue was really bad. If so, maybe they upgraded it or made it better, because this was actually the artist's quality one. Okay, so next question from KET. How did you train to become the artist you are today? Read a lot of books, watch videos, and analyze study drawings. Mostly the last thing. So mostly analyzing. So mostly analyzing other people's works, mostly analyzing the movies I liked, the backgrounds for the movies I liked, and artists that I thought were doing something interesting with their craft. And I did not use books. I don't have any how to paint watercolors or how to paint in general, how to draw books, not one. So I think those books can be useful for learning things like perspective and color theory, and about the tools you have to buy and use, because now you have internet and now you have like YouTube to show it to you, but in my time when I was a kid, having a book that would explain me how to use watercolors would be really great, but I didn't have a book like this. I don't like tutorials. Some tutorials are really nice, but I actually don't watch so much tutorials on the internet. There are things I think tutorials are really essential for example, for programming, or like I do electronics as a hobby. I use Arduino, so from things like this, I use tutorials from the internet to broaden my knowledge. It's easier to see how someone connects this to this and it works. But with art, I think it's better just to try yourself, and the more you try, the better you become. Not the watching a tutorial and trying to follow the tutorial is okay, but for me, the more you try things yourself, the more the knowledge goes into your head and into your hand. You get used to doing this, so it's better to just learn by yourself. I have no robots actually right now because I demolished the one I had for parts. I will be making a new small one I'm planning right now with all kinds of sensors and all kinds of stuff, but it's just a hobby, like a small one. I will show you on Patreon when I finish it, but I had one that was just, a small robot that goes around and avoids obstacles and this kind of simple stuff, but it was the first I did. So it was still kind of rough. So I dismantled it and I will be doing a new one probably soon. I need to rest a little bit from painting and drawing because when I just paint and draw, I would just do it all the time. So I need something to keep my mind off painting. And electronics is the best thing I found. I don't have any photos of the last one. But it was just a simple one. I'm kind of I want to do a better one. I would like to have a 3D printer, but this is not my main thing right now. So I'm always like, oh, I would like a 3D printer, and Kana is like, do you need it? Do you really need it? And I'm like, no, but it's nice. I would like to have a 3D printer. And Kana is like, what for? I'm like, okay. But Kana also makes figurines of clay and all kinds of models, like 3D stuff by hand. Just characters and all kinds of stuff. So she wants a 3D printer also, but she would like one that has good quality, so you then don't see those kind of lines that the 3D printer leaves. But a printer like this is even more expensive, so I don't think we will be buying one soon. But this is one thing that I would really like to try. Also for my art DIY kind of projects, I would like to have ability to make parts for my projects also. Probably the next DIY projects I'll be making will be kind of this, to make this desk kind of until here, so I can work on it while standing, because I always sit while doing my work. So I would like to have a kind of standing desk thing that I can adjust. So probably this will be my next DIY art project I want to do. Also because I'm doing a lot of watercolor work now, so most of the time I'm here painting. I will show you my robot when I finish it. And to answer 1772 Diana, I will post a list of 10 artists I'm following right now that inspire me to do my stuff. These are the sketches for the comic I'm doing right now for Yuragi, and these are the character sketches for the 3 main characters and the house sketches of the main characters. And those all the sketches and all the concept arts that are here behind me will be featured in the PDF of the comic I'll be putting online, and you'll be able to download it in the book and see the concept arts in the book. But those are all for Yuragi, and I put them there to have them so I can look at them while I draw, but also to make the wall there more safe from watercolors and water, because I use a lot of watercolors here. So yeah, this desk can be tilted, because this okay, so another question from Valentin. Don't you tilt your desk or drawing board when you draw paint? This desk can be tilted. It is tilted right now a little bit. I don't know if you will be able to see it, but this is Kana's desk here, and this is my desk, so this is a little bit tilted. But I want to do like a thing that I'll put on top of it, so I can have it more or less like this. So I can stand here and paint like this. And this will be probably my next DIY project that I can do. And the problem with this desk is that when I tilt it, all the things there just fall down, so I cannot tilt the whole desk. And it's also really heavy. It's this huge desk, actually. Okay, so we are already 1 hour in, and I think we'll be ending soon, about, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. So if you have any last question for this session, please comment. And if you don't, or if you just remember you wanted to ask something, just write me an email. I will remember it, or write it on Patreon, and I will try to answer it in the next session. Okay. Also, I have he asked me what artists I like and what artists inspire me. So one of the things I can answer right now is, I don't know if I read his name right, is Jared Mural, I think, and he does these awesome sketches, which are sketchbooks, which are awesome, and I recommend buying them. I really like his line work. They are kind of Mobius like, but I really like it, and they are really good reference for men, for anatomically correct and incorrect drawings. So I really recommend going to his website and Instagram to see his works. I will link also his work below, but I have 2 of his sketchbooks, and you can buy them online. They are really pretty because they look like Moleskine sketchbooks, and he uses Moleskine sketchbooks for his sketches, and both of them are awesome, and I recommend buying them if you have some spare cash. This is pure gold on all the pages, and they are written in German, I think, but they have English on the back, so you can also understand what he was writing on the pages here. And I mean, look at those, they are awesome quality stuff here. So this is one of the artists I really like, and I learned a lot from him, watching his works on Instagram, and from the books here, especially about drawing like trees and rocks with the pen. So this is really nice stuff. Yes. And also I have the book here from Mariko Tamaki and Jillian Tamaki, which is I think the pictures are made by Jillian Tamaki, and she does all kinds of awesome comics. The Mutant Magic Academy, that it was, I don't remember the title, which is awesome. And this is also awesome. I really like the drawing style with the rough pen lines. And I actually met her when she was in Tokyo, so she signed the book for me, which is awesome of her, and I really like the style also. I would recommend looking up her work, and her online comic is online, so you can read it, but also like the comic books that she sells, like The Last Summer and The Skim here, are really just visually stunning, and I don't know if you will like the story or not, but the visuals here are awesome. Yes, I also Valentin here mentions Kim Jong-gi. I like his works also. He's the master of just without sketch drawing everything. So this is one of the things I cannot do, but I would like to be able to. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I think we will be slowly shutting this down. This recording will be available for all Patreon all Patreon supporters on YouTube and only for Patreon supporters. So I will be putting a link to this video when it will be on YouTube, so you can rewatch it, or those of you who could not come here could rewatch it. Okay, the last thing I would like to say is that again, now that some of you are here, I'm really happy and thankful for you, for your support on Patreon. Because of your support, I can get all this stuff, so I can continue with my work, and I will continue sharing my work with you and all kinds of details on the Patreon posts also. And we are really close to the $500 thing. That will be the level at which I will be doing a sketch, watercolor sketch a month for you only, and uploading it. I mean, I will upload it to the internet like YouTube and stuff, but you will get the full high resolution scan of the sketch, so it will be made for you. You'll be able to print it or use it on your wallpaper or whatever. Oh, I'm happy that you was Valentin here says that he went to the Sekaido store, and I think that this is the best store in Japan to buy art stuffs, and I recommend it every time. Again, really thank you for your support on Patreon. See you in the next question and answer session. If you have any questions for question and answering, just write them in the comments, or send me an email or something. I will put it into my list. Sorry for the sound disruptions outside. I have a bad luck with the sessions like this. The next session probably will be more suited for European viewers, because I want to, as you suggested, I want to make the sessions in different hours each month, so other supporters can enjoy them, and this will be kind of rotated, probably Tokyo night, Tokyo like today 11 o'clock, and then Tokyo about 4 o'clock probably. I have to check it on the time zone thing. Okay, so thank you for coming today. Thank you for your questions and your comments. See you in the next question and answer session. Bye.